ちらもHinakoだけれど、きっとどちらかが間違っている。お願い。もし私が間違っていたなら、私を殺して、ねえ解放して。さもなきゃ私があんたを殺すから。
Silent Hill games are always a source of deep emotional storytelling, exploring dark themes in horror settings. When Silent Hill F was announced, it sparked a lot of conversations, as its Japanese setting was a new idea for the franchise. Konami entrusted the help of Neobard's Entertainment to develop it, which seemed like a strange choice, considering Neobard's has primarily worked on ports for consoles. That paired with their major two developing roles being in Resident Evil Resistance and Resident Evil Reverse, well, we all know how those got reviewed. Konami was set on their developer despite these concerns, but thought that another talent was needed to perfect this story. In comes Ryukishi 07, the writer of the Higurashi When They Cry visual novel series, which explores mysterious murders and disappearances in a small Japanese village set in 1983. Higurashi When They Cry is known for portraying deaths in a gruesome fashion, almost over the top. Silent Hill F is no exception to this, leading the main character Hinako through a multitude of horrific things, making it the most gruesome Silent Hill this far. The story and characters were the complete standout of this game, perfectly portraying the time setting and social aspects of the world in Japan back in the 1960s. It's very typically Silent Hill, exploring aspects of psychological torment, one of identity and belonging. Overall, I enjoyed my time with it, despite the combat being too heavy for my liking, and the repetitive nature of the game on subsequent playthroughs, which are required if you want to get the full story. The puzzles were really tough but enjoyable, and the enemy designs were intricately detailed. But the story is where it shines, and while I will explore other aspects of the game, the story is going to be the main focus in this video. Of course, spoilers for the entire plot of Silent Hill F, including all the different endings.
ここから先は大きな苦痛を伴うことになる。
いいえ、私は襲えません。
では行こう。ここでは3つの儀式がある。
Set in 1960s Japan, in the town of Ebisugoka, we play as Hinako Shimazu, a high school student. The game starts with Hinako playing with a doll, and a cutscene with her sister Junko. We immediately see fractures in Hinako's family home, with her father calling Hinako out for not being like her older sister Junko, who recently got married. Hinako leaves the home to meet up with her friends Shu, Rinko, and Sakuko. Meeting up, all four of them are having a light-hearted conversation when Sakuko suddenly gets plagued with red, and Hinako, Shu, and Rinko are forced to run away from a mysterious entity. After escaping, she opens a letter received from Shu, containing painkillers in the form of red capsules, an item which plays an important role in the game. With the objective of finding our friends again, we discover the first enemies of the game, and have to escape until we find our first weapon, a rusty old pipe. Mysteriously, there are no other people around. We eventually make our way back to where we met with our friends earlier, and find Sakuko, lifeless, consumed by red flowers. This takes us into the other world, where we meet a man only known as Foxmask, who asks us to follow him. Here, we encounter unkillable enemies and have to avoid them while solving an Omamori puzzle. After Foxmass says we are worthy to venture forward, we are knocked out and back into the fogginess. Awoken by Shu, he explains that he and Rinko got split up, so we decide to look for her at her house. We follow Shu around, who never actually helps us and disappears constantly, despite him saying he's our partner. We fight our first big enemy, this massive Patrick-looking guy, and head to the fields. This place has one of the best puzzles, with 5 lots of riddles to solve to find the right scarecrow. Meeting up with Rinko at our house, we see the doll cautioning us, and Rinko seemingly pushes Hinako down the stairs, although we don't see her do that. In the other world, we run around the corridors and continue following Foxmask, and fight our friend, Sakuko, who really doesn't look like herself. After Sakuko nearly kills us, Foxmask saves us, casting Sakuko aside. He encourages us to cleanse ourselves, drinking the water or lava, and we wake up to Shu again, with a mysterious sleeve missing on her arm. With the intention to head to Shu's house, we take a look at the creepily abandoned middle school that they all attended to find a key to the gate to continue. After Rinko basically forces us to go alone in the school, we relive our memories, find the key, and fall asleep after Rinko and Shu says we should rest. Back in the other world, Foxmask helps us up as we continue with the ritual. He says that it's time for Hinako to say her farewells, and here we discover both Rinko and Sakuko trapped with no escape. But instead of saving them as we advance, we leave them for dead, with Sakuko being left in darkness and Rinko being burnt alive. Finally, we get to Shu's section, finding memories important to Shu and Hinako, and we fight our first booby monster, or whatever this thing is. Upon finding these items, we head into the next room.
Hinako の好きなようにして。俺は相棒の選択なら受け入れるぜ。
Hinako pulls a lever to hang Shu, and we leave him to die, walking away towards the fox mask. After bidding farewell to our friends as Foxmask says it, we awaken the real world again to find Shu and Rinko gone. Now we have the key to the gate leading to Shu's house. We make our way there, but get chased by the fog monster. After arriving at Shu's house in mostly one piece, we find a note from Shu, saying that Hinako seemed to be getting stress headaches due to tensions with her family life, specifically with her dad. Shu has been giving her traditional Chinese medicine to help with it, the red capsules we have been taking throughout the game. Heading into Shu's house, we get dragged out by the fog monster who knocks Hinako out. In the ritual chamber, we have to complete our transformation, and it starts with a gruesome task for Hinako. She has to cut her own arm off, and is given a new powerful fox arm that gives her new abilities. After experimenting with our new arm, we enter another ritual room and get a new transformation. Hinako's skin gets cut off around her eyes, and she gets her mask, a fox mask very similar to Foxmask himself. Celebrating Hinako being reborn, we fight Rinko, who has been overtaken by fire. Defeating her, Hinako begins to fight against herself as we awaken to a phone call from Hinako's mother in Shu's house. Junko appears, and we finally see what she has become. She tells us that we must decide our own future, but we are running out of time. With the world changing into redness, we walk into a park and see a cutscene of a boy who gets saved by Hinako when he gets bitten by a fox. In the Shimizu house, Hinako's home, it's very different from what it once was. Here, we must solve a bunch of puzzles while navigating 3 different versions of the house. There's multiple scenes showing the abusive household, with Hinako's father treating both Hinako's mother and herself like they are worthless. In Hinako's room, we meet another Hinako, who battles herself and her inner thoughts, mentioning that everyone Hinako knows deserves to die.
真剣に私たちのことを考えようともしていない。これ以上あんたが逃げ回るならもういい。もう今度こそあんたを殺すから。あんただけじゃないからね。お父さんもお母さんも殺す。この家もこの町も消し去ってやる。リンコもサクコも殺す。そしてもちろんあんたの大切な相棒もね。
After a reminder of the fate from our friends, we fight Hinako's parents and follow them outside, where they finally meet their end to the fog monster. Back in the ritual chamber, the Foxmask and Hinako drink an offering, and Foxmask gives Hinako an important brooch, a sign that she is now his. After some more fighting and puzzles, Junko appears and threatens Hinako to kill her if she doesn't finish what she came to do. The final rite is upon us, and Hinako fights a horde of enemies in a now crimson town. The fog monster appears again, and this cutscene plays.
絶対に離せ。
こんなことだろうと思いました。
お姉ちゃん、助けて。
これがどれだけ失礼なことか、あなたにも十分分かっているはず。殺しなさい。殺しなさい。さあ。
どうしてお姉ちゃん。
それがあなたのためです。死になさい。
Junko orders the fog monster to kill Hinako. As we complete the rite, making an offering on the altar, Hinako is consumed by crimson as she becomes one with the fog monster. With our new fox power in the real world, we go through the completely changed Ebisogoka, with the doll continuously telling us not to continue. At the end of this section, we kill our parents, and Hinako screams echo. Fighting the final hordes, the last cutscene before the boss plays, Hinako takes a load of red capsules, and Junko tries to stop her. Destroying the offering, we fight ourselves in the form of the fog monster. Afterwards, we are led to escape, with a path of red capsules to follow. This is where the first ending happens, coming home to roost, where Hinako, played with the drugs, goes on a rampage, murdering multiple people after her wedding, seen fleeing the scenes, still wearing her wedding dress. This is the only ending you can get in the first playthrough, and doesn't paint the full picture until you play the other endings. Now to explore the other endings, all which require you not to take any red capsules throughout playing. While it is up to the player's interpretation, I believe that the gods start to come into play here, so here's a little background. Credits to Vermintest on the Silent Hill forums for this information. In ancient times, a water dragon was worshipped to quell its anger, as many believed that the residents were suffering from the dragon's poison. Years later, a new god came to be, the Tsukumogami, known as the monks, said to have absorbed the dragon's anger. The cedar tree found in the game is linked to this, worshipped as a divine vessel, and thus becoming the divine tree faith. However, the tree got struck by lightning and turned into ash, leaving but a husk behind. A new faith would come to be, the Inari-sama, as an old mossy fox statue was discovered. Many people transitioned into worshipping this, as many grew up believing in this new god, including Hinako, offering old tools to the gods as a sign of good fortune. The second ending, the Fox's Wedding, has Hinako taking the route of committing to the marriage with Foxmask, accepting her fate and granting her parents' wishes. Obtaining the Agara no Hote Sama from the Dark Shrine, only accessible in New Game Plus, is key, a powerful folk remedy in a bottle used to dispel spirits. In the ending, Hinako drinks this substance to dispel a dark possession inside her real self. With Hinako fully transformed into a new self, a worthy vessel for marriage, Shu comes in and attacks the Fox Mask. However, Hinako's path is set and she protects him, and Shu, distraught from this, runs away. With Hinako following Shu, we learn of a haunting truth. The red capsules that Hinako was given by Shu actually contain White Claudia, a hallucinogenic plant, and her continuously taking them throughout the game caused her to go insane as seen in the first playthrough. He admits here that he didn't want to see her get married, and he knew that the drugs were dangerous, but yet gave them to her anyway. It's here we fight a boss fight, a monk-like entity with Shu in the middle. It can be perceived that the monk spirits manipulated him due to his fear of losing her, taking over his body. Beating him, the ending seems neutral, with Shu and Fox Mask coming to an agreement, with Hinako marrying the Fox Mask. However, we get this haunting scene after the credits.
はい。Hinako, not wanting to become like her mother, forced to adhere to the standards of women, to be treated like an object, and losing the one thing she wanted, her own identity. In the third ending, the fox wets its tail. Hinako must obtain the cursed sacred sword by the divine tree, offering 5 different items to the Jesus statues around the town. This ending has Hinako rejecting the marriage with Fox Mask. Hinako expresses her need to make her own choice, and ends up fighting herself briefly, but Fox Mask interrupts, with Shu coming in to help take him down. Fox Mask turns into the Inari-sama, the fox spirit that's taken over him. Upon defeating the Inari-sama, Hinako and Shu escape into Ebisugoka. It seems like a good end. However, it is hinted that the town is no longer protected by the Inari-sama, as volcanic activity caused the town to be evacuated, essentially causing the town's destruction. And finally, there's the true ending, Ebisugoka in silence, requiring you to purify the sacred sword. Completing the Crimson Water puzzle lets you go to the burnt shrine to dunk the sword in a red liquid. You also need to offer the brooch that Fox Mask gave you in the first ending to a Jesus statue near Hinako's house. This ending provides a much needed insight into Hinako's family, and a neutral ending for her character, being at peace with herself. While hinted at before, a much needed explanation from her mother is what ties it all together. Hinako's father once had a friend, and they planned to open a shop together. However, the friend took all of his money and disappeared, leaving them with nothing. Her father became angry, causing rifts in the family. He made a deal with the Fox Mask. He can have Hinako's hand in marriage if the debt is paid off. Fighting both the monk and the more powerful fox, Hinako's 2 selves escape with the Fox Mask, and he accepts her choice to leave after no longer being possessed. Content with her 2 selves, their silent Ebisugoka together. A powerful story of identity, trauma, and self-worth. How どうして私たちはどちらかが殺されなければならないの？どうして私たちは殺し合うしか対応ができないの
The collectible documents found in Silent Hill F are very intriguing, providing much needed insight into the characters. Most of my findings are based on these documents, so they are well worth the read. First, let's start with Hinako, the main protagonist. Hinako feels like a Silent Hill protagonist, a deeply flawed character with issues stemming from human grievances. She's not a bad person, but her inner demons plague her mind, taking her down the darkest paths. Hinako, throughout the story, is forced to decide whether to keep her life like it is with Shu and her friends, or go with the fox mask and leave them behind. Does Hinako grant her family's wishes to succumb to the norms of society, or make her own decisions? A scene with Junko in the true ending perfectly sums up how Hinako wants to be.
そこが違うの。そこが多分私とお姉ちゃんの、私と世界の一番の違いなの。
違いって？
私、幸せになることが絶対に大切とは思ってないの。もちろん幸せにはなりたいよ。でもそれよりも大事なことがあるの。
それは何？
自分で選択したかどうか。私はね、幸せにしてもらいたいんじゃない。自分で選んで幸せになりたいの。たとえ幸せになれなかったとしても、自分で選んだ結果はとても尊くて、私には価値があるように思えるの。
All Hinako wants is to be able to make her own decisions. She wants to choose to be happy herself. Even if she ends up miserable, but it was her own choice, then it's all worth it. That is the message of this game down to its core. Hinako is the definition of a tomboy. She much prefers to hang out with guys and playing sports, and also enjoys playing Space Wars with her friend Shu. This was still more out of the ordinary back then. However, I want to note that around this time in the 60s and 70s, the sukeban started to become a big thing in Japan. Sukeban is a term used to describe a group of girls that are a delinquent gang, standing up for themselves and going against gender norms, to not succumb to feminine expectations in a male-dominated society. I really wonder if this in particular links to Hinako's character and story, as the time setting feels right based on real-life events. Hinako is definitely more of a victim, as we see throughout the game. The one friend she thought she could trust drugged her. Her own family sold her for money. Her identity lost. Her body treated like an object. Her making decisions she's not allowed because she's a woman. It's actually quite scary to think that it's not been that long since this was considered normal in the world. And of course, it's still widely considered like this in certain parts of the world. Hinako's character excels in selling the story, with deep emotional scenes that really captures what it was like. However, there is another side to this, with Hinako making many heinous decisions throughout the game. From what I understand, the whole shrine world isn't real. Hinako actually doesn't murder her friends. She is simply growing up and moving on from them to get married. While it is brutal, its impact makes the story more compelling, leaving her friends to die with no remorse. Her friends, Rinko and Sakuko, talk about Hinako like she's dead, a further metaphor for moving on from them. Hinako also states this in her diary. She mentions that her getting married is her execution, her funeral, saying that she will lose herself completely if she goes along with the marriage. Hinako is also brutal about her parents in her diary, expressing her hatred towards her family. I hate my dad. I wish he would just die. I hate my mum too. She deserves to die as well. If I could just turn into a monster, then I'd take the two of them and crush them to death with my bare hands. This is my decision. No, our decision. Don't act like either of you get to have a say in this. I won't become like you. We won't become like you. The doll plays a big part in Hinako's story, showing up many times to warn her of different things. It's strange, as Hinako's story is set no matter what. and she can only ignore the advice of the doll. I believe the doll symbolizes Hinako's childhood, as it is her doll from when she was a kid. It tries to remind her not to forget of her childhood, the friends she's made, the life that she could have by making her own choice, to not succumb to what is expected of her.
俺はダメな男だ。笑って祝福するつもりでいたんだ。でもできなかった。それどころか俺はお前に薬と偽って
それは
内なる自分と対話できる薬だが体質によっては非常に危険な薬だ。
どうしてそんなものを私に。
結婚を断って欲しかった。一番思ってるのは誰か気づいて欲しかった。
Shu has always been there for Hinako, despite her not following the traditional norms of a girl. They call each other partner and like to talk about Space Wars, a game they enjoy. He is constantly looking out for Hinako, and she mentions in her diary that he is pretty much the only one who understands how she feels. We see multiple times early on how much Shu cares for Hinako. He stays with her when she faints for the first time instead of going after Rinko, and keeps her on track throughout the town. Shu seems like a friendly guy, and just wants the best for Hinako. But deep down, Shu holds onto a dark secret. As previously mentioned, Shu is responsible for the White Claudia drugs given to Hinako. Overwhelmed by jealousy, he tries to stop the wedding by giving her the Rebbed capsules. A small detail is that we can see the White Claudia growing in Shu's backyard, near the lake. He comes from a family of pharmacists after all. Shu is selfish, purposely causing harm to Hinako, thinking that it would make her change her mind, once again leading to the fact that even Shu, the one person who understands her, doesn't think she has a right to think for herself. This is furthered with her obsession with Hinako, similar to Fox Mask. In the Fox's wedding ending, there's a part that sticks with me. Shu tells Fox Mask that he is only lending Hinako to him, a sign of possession, and even Hinako makes a comment of treating her like an object.
おはよう。悪い夢にうなされていたかな。
悪い夢。
怪我はないか。怪我をするようなことは私がする。君は体を大事にしなさい。
ありがとう。
それでは行こうか、ひなこ。
Fox Mask, real name Kotoyuki, meets Hinako as a kid. There's a cutscene where we see Hinako saving him from a fox. Since then, Fox Mask has made it his mission to seek out Hinako and take her hand in marriage. Unbeknownst to him, that day, a fox spirit by the name of QB had started possessing him, causing him to be completely obsessed with taking Hinako for himself. This then led him to taking Hinako through the rituals, mutilating herself as a sign of committance to the marriage, forcing her to let go of her childhood, killing her friends. It's pure evil. Fox Mask is a villain. Obsession and possession consume him. He treats Hinako like an object, a vessel to be used. He constantly makes comments to Hinako about how she is his and no one else's. But in the true ending, we see how he feels, no longer under the possession of Kyubi.
琴雪さん、一緒に。
すまなかった。私は君に全てを与えたつもりで 君が一番欲していたものに気づけなかった。私も君と同じものが欲しくなったのだ。君への愛は酔狂なまじないによって生み出されたものではないと。
He accepts Hinako's choice of freedom to be herself, letting her go. He tries to enjoy life for once, reliving a childhood he never had with a heartfelt letter to Hinako, reassessing whether his love for her was real. He's a great character who shows willingness to change how he feels based on others. He was never really a bad person, just a victim of possession. Despite Rinko's law most likely being a manifestation in Hinako's mind, I still dislike her character the most. But it's not that she isn't a good character. The way that she is portrayed is great, rather she is just a nasty person. In multiple letters that Rinko sent Hinako, she talks about how thankful she is for Hinako, but explains it in a way that shows how narcissistic she is. I'll always be looking out for you and Sakuko, because when I look at you two pitiful creatures, it makes me feel so superior. And that's what she really thinks. She thinks she is better than everyone. She constantly writes similar things in her diary, a built-up hatred towards Hinako, and it all seems to stem from Shu. Rinko is madly in love with Shu, even discarding letters that she never finished that were meant for him. Rinko is jealous, overwhelmingly so, because Shu only has eyes for Hinako. Her obsession is outlined in her secret journal, and the more entries we see, the more psychotic it gets. She repeatedly calls Hinako a cockroach, and says that she wants her gone forever, even telling her to die. The most disturbing entry of them all is her 5th secret journal entry, about Shu, her obsession completely out of control. I love you, I'd do anything for you. I am yours, body and soul. Do you want my liver, my kidneys, my still beating heart? I'll crack open my ribs and pull it out for you, if that's what you want. I want to slurp down your intestines, to feel them sliding across my tongue. I want to cut off the top of our heads and mash our brains together. I'll turn them into a nice soup. Then I'll drink the soup. I'll feed it to you, mouth to mouth. Next, we can chew up our tongues and feed them to one another. When going into Rinko's room, we see more of her obsession, with pictures of Shu all over the wall. Even when Rinko is trying to be more reasonable, she still has to put Hinako down. Take, for example, this discarded crumpled note. She thanks Hinako for teaching her emotions that children should learn during childhood, while also belittling Hinako, saying that when she met her, she felt contempt, irritation, disgust, and envy. Despite her trying to be reasonable, she still thinks she's better than everyone.
裏切り者サクコどこ行くの？こっち通るの珍しいね。車が道を塞いでてさ。千鶴や？今は誰かと喋りたくて。私も後から行くね。うん。じゃあね。裏切り者。
Sakuko is a character I really feel for, and she's definitely the most innocent character. The first time we see her, she calls Hinako a traitor multiple times. This seems odd, but as time goes on, you discover Sakuko's fear of getting left behind, all unraveling in notes you find. In a letter from the hospital, Sakuko is said to have mild autism. and that she hears voices and fears the dark, and that it is completely normal. Simply raise her with love and affection, and let her mature at her own pace. And from this, we see multiple letters from her mother, scolding her for being weird, telling Sakuko to never tell anyone of the voices inside her head or the things she sees, as she'd be ostracized in society. Another where she is shamed for still being scared of the dark when she is older. Her mother is likely a cause of Sakuko's inner thoughts of self-worth, and we see more of this in Sakuko's journals. Sakuko considers herself weird, and that she's all alone, thinking that everyone is going to laugh at her. And yet, Hinako is her first ever friend, sticking with her even though she is different. Sakuko shows appreciation for that, but is also so afraid of abandonment. With Hinako getting married, Sakuko feels like she is getting left behind, that she is going to be forgotten, and I feel like her mother is to blame for making her believe that she is the problem. In Sakuko's last diary entry, she acknowledges that Hinako is just moving at a faster pace than her, and that she is jealous of that, even saying sorry for calling her a traitor. Sakuko realizes how she was acting, and owned up to her mistakes despite constantly being doubted by her mother and herself. Knowing all this, Sakuko's death in the other world is even more heartbreaking, all her fears combined into one, with no hope, and left to die alone in the darkness.
校長のさよどうぞご覧くださいよなんだその言い草は
From what we can see in the first playthrough, the Shimizu family is filled with broken relationships. This game starts with a cutscene of Hinako and her parents, and her father yelling at Hinako. We see multiple accounts of abuse, with him throwing a sword at Hinako and disagreeing with her choices. Hinako writes in her diary that he is a definition of a patriarchal husband. Hinako's father has loads of debt, and decides to marry off Hinako to Kotayuki in exchange for money. However, we do get a somewhat bittersweet resolution to his character in the true ending.
もし俺のせいで男というものに恐怖を覚えているならそれは誤解だ。俺はろくでなしだが他の父親たちは違う。俺とは正反対で琴行君は立派な青年だ。彼なら絶対にお前を幸せにしてくれる。付き合いの長い柊君立派な男だけどな。あいつにならお前をやれるとずっと思っている。しかしそんなのは俺の勝手な決めつけで結婚するもしないもお前が自分で決めて構わない。
He bows down to Hinako and apologizes to her for the first time in his life. He says that Hinako is allowed to make her own choice, something that she's been pretty much never been able to do. While Hinako doesn't fully forgive him for the torment he has caused, she finally understands him. In the letter from my uncle, we see that Hinako's father was willing to take on more debt to pay for his wife's surgery, and while it is unknown what the surgery is for, it's a gesture that he does truly care for her, and not just her, his family.
お父さん、ひなこだって分かってくれてますよ。
分かってたらどうしてあの態度になるんだ。これも全部お前がひなこをずっと甘やかしてきたからだろう。
ひなこ、お父さんはね、 あなたのためを思って。
友達のとこ行ってくる。
早めに帰っておいでね。
Hinako describes her mother as pitiful, a pawn of an abusive marriage. We see multiple instances of this, and while Hinako's mother does stand up to her husband occasionally, she is generally submissive. However, behind closed doors, she mentions that her and her husband's relationship is quite different.
私とお父さんが本気で喧嘩をしたら、お父さんが私に勝てるわけないじゃない。でもね、それは私たち夫婦の話。娘のお前に心配かけたのは本当に申し訳ないと思ってるよ。
The raw emotion is what makes this my favourite scene in the whole game. Her father only acts ill-tempered in front of Hinako and Junko, not wanting to seem like a weak father. Hinako's mother did stand up for herself, and was not a pawn of marriage like Hinako once thought.
ひなこ、もう時間がないのよ。いつまでここにいる気なの？
お姉ちゃん。
久しぶりね、ひなこ。
やっぱりなんだか不思議な感じ。お姉ちゃんがお姉ちゃんじゃないみたい。
Junko, Hinako's older sister, has always looked out for Hinako until she left to get married. We see her immediately upon starting the game, but mysteriously her face is not shown. In fact, we never see Junko's face at all. Junko is wearing what appears to be a mask of an owl, following Hinako's move like a hawk hunting for its prey. And that's exactly what she's doing. Every time we meet Junko, she is trying to direct us down the path of marriage, and when we go against her, she gets frustrated that Hinako doesn't feel the same way as her, at least at first. I feel like it comes down to two things as for why we never see Junko's face. The first one is Hinako's perception of her. Junko is not the sister she once was, having moved on from Hinako's side, abandoning her previous family for marriage. The other reason is that Junko has the mask of her new family now, and we see this happen to Hinako too with her fox mask. It symbolizes a choice to accept the norms of women in this time frame, as back in the 1960s it was still generally expected of women to marry quite young. A small detail I noticed was that there is a bell sound at certain points throughout playing. I believe that this is linked to Junko, as we give her a bell charm at the start of the game. It is heard when Hinako offers different items to the Jizu statues to obtain the sacred sword. You can also hear the sound at the end of the true ending, potentially signifying that even though Junko tried to lead Hinako down the marriage path, she is proud of Hinako for choosing her own path and accepting herself for who she really is. A scene in the true ending perfectly sums up how Junko feels.
どうかが大事なの。
私には綺麗事に聞こえるけれどね。でもひな子の言うことが間違ってるとも思えない。あと100年、いやひょっとしたらもう少し早いかも。どんな結果だろうと自分で選んだ結果ならそれが幸せだとそうと言える時代がきっと訪れると思うわ。お姉ちゃんはその世界には行けないけれど、ひな子は いけるといいね。
While she has already gone on her path through marriage, she hopes that Hinako can choose her own. I truly believe that Hinako and Junko respect each other's opinions, as Hinako states this in her journal. Junko is also visibly mad that Hinako is taking the red capsules, showing that she still cares about her despite their relationship being more distant. Combat is the major flaw with this game, and it got to the point where it was getting frustrated with playing parts of the game again. It's not really down to how janky it is. Yes, it is janky, but it's the fact that the game forces you to defeat hordes of enemies at multiple points, especially towards the end. There is no option to run away or avoid them, and that's what bothers me. They recently added an update that lets you skip some of the New Game Plus, which is great, but playing this before was infuriating. I tried to play on other difficulties that were higher than easy mode at the time, and I felt like I just couldn't do it. Another issue that they have modified recently is the stamina consumption. Hinako just doesn't have a lot of it, and you can only attack a few times before you have to stop a bit and let it regenerate. Hinako's defense mechanisms involve dodging and counterattacking. Both can be perfectly timed, with perfectly timed dodges regenerating a full bar of stamina, and counterattacking when the enemy attacks with a red visual cue, stunning enemies. Hinako's fox arm powers are also impressive, gaining the ability to soul siphon enemies that usually can't be permanently killed. This gives her points used for her bestial form, and when activated, she gains unlimited stamina and health for a limited time, unleashing powerful attacks, and also automatically soul siphoning the enemies. There's also weapon durability, and while I'm usually not a fan of this, it's done okay here. On easy, it didn't feel like I needed to worry too much about the mechanic, as it gave me enough weapons so I did not run out, but I would assume it's different on the hardest mode. There's also repair kits, meaning that you can top up your favourite weapons. The Sacred Sword is by far the most powerful weapon, essentially having unlimited durability if you let it charge by using other weapons occasionally. However, purifying it means it becomes breakable, meaning that repair kits need to be used. The Omamori are charms that you can equip to give you certain buffs, which is one of the unique things about combat, letting you choose a playstyle. Some are really powerful but come with a catch, like negating stuns at the expense of taking more damage, or dealing more damage but no longer being able to stun. There's lots of things you can try, which makes the game more engaging and the combat a bit more fun. As is the usual with these types of games, there isn't much enemy variety, but their designs are so well thought out and relate to Hinako's journey. I like how Hinako keeps a journal depicting these enemies. The first enemy we see are the Kashimashi, lumps of flesh stitched together with weird doll-like joints. These are always placed in locations that scare the living shit out of you, making them quite a terrifying enemy, and that's what makes them great additions. The Ayakakashi seen in the fields are scarecrows-like enemies dressed in school uniforms, or as Hinako says, old clothes that look like a crucified corpse. These are really cool, as if you turn away, they will move closer to you until you look at them again, like a weeping angel. Design is more basic for this one, but they stand out because of the many different faces and hair they have. They are super effective in the field puzzle, as you need to figure out which scarecrow is the right one based on their positioning, both on the field and their body parts. Ara Abare, Patrick, if he was taken over by red flowers. This enemy does not stay dead when you first fight it, meaning you have to do whatever you're doing quickly or else. This is pretty much what Hinako's father turns into in his boss fight. Hinako states that it's like a wild animal filled to the brim with anger, reminiscent of our father. The Irohihi. Fighting these guys is one of the worst things about this game. They are by far the most annoying enemy. But it is interesting to note that these guys only pursue women and never bother attacking men. Hinako describes them as greasy palm and greedily staring creatures, which makes perfect sense when you realize that hihi, while it refers to a baboon, can be a term to describe a pervert. The corruptors don't really do anything. They are simply there to piss you off while you're trying to run away. These are monsters of many faces and vomit bodily fluids as a means to attack. Truly disgusting. Hatchers are the big booby monsters mentioned earlier. Covered in skin cysts, these enemies splurt out sacs that will break open if you don't destroy them. Blue ones will explode, and the beigey pink ones will spawn enemies, making the fight tougher. Hatchers are depicted as giving birth, and Hinako mentions that the wonders of birth do not apply to this, as they are filthy, foul, and repulsive. I liked fighting these, as they weren't too hard, but you had to pay attention to the field so it didn't get chaotic. In the Shrine world, there's similar enemies but with different looks, and some small changes to behaviour. Take for example the Kamogara. They walk a bit like the Hirohihi, however they cannot see and only hear Hinako's every move. A gaping hole of rotten flesh is a face, with chains and shackles to it, like it was once imprisoned. Once again, really annoying enemies, but I kept forgetting that I could stand still and they would stop hearing me. The Harai Katashiro, similar to the Kashimashi but with added blades to the legs, spinning towards you at speed. The Oi Amoi, basically corruptors but with more of a doll-like appearance, depicting children's dolls creating a spine. The Dark Hatcher, same as the Hatcher but has mounds instead of cysts. Hinako states that she would rather die than be turned into a creature like this. And finally, the Drum Monster. I don't remember fighting many of these, but its attacks are pretty lethal. It strikes its drum to block out any other noise, to control those around it, and create fear for anyone that opposes him. Each enemy is well designed based around Hinako's journey. Depictions of birth, creepy men, and torture make the enemies really fitting. The bosses of Silent Hill F vary depending on the ending you receive, with the exception of Sakuko, Rinko, and Hinako's parents. Sakuko is the first boss we encounter, wielding chains and a spiked mace. A hole is in her chest, potentially linking to her faith, signifying the lightning that struck down the cedar tree, inevitably making Sakuko's family switch their beliefs. A massive sun halo is behind her head, a sign of divine protection, likely due to Sakuko wanting to be the head priest at her family shrine, the Senensugi Shrine. There's so much detail in her character model, I could go on. As for actually fighting her, she has general attacks with her mace and chain, some ranged and some melee. She can also grab you, signaled by her saying, "Dodge this." but after a while she'll start to disappear in the fog, with only a bell chime signaling her whereabouts. You need to find her quickly and hit her, as she'll unleash a big shockwave if you don't. I loved this boss fight, as it really kept you on edge as you hunted for her. Next is Rinko. Rinko's designs are fully based on her fires of jealousy towards Hinako, dressed as a supreme priestess, linking to her thinking that she is better than everyone. The fire also signifies how Hinako sacrificed her earlier. Rinko spawns ads occasionally, which she can ignite, causing them to run at you and explode. This adds another layer of annoyance to the boss fight, as it is often overwhelming when fighting many enemies at once, although the ads can be used to soul siphon, giving Hinako more points towards her bestial form. Rinko's other attacks mostly consist of fire on the ground and some melee attacks. Apart from the ads, this boss fight was great, as I really learned how to dodge her attacks as they were well telegraphed. Finally, the last boss you always fight is Hinako's parents. Hinako's dad, as mentioned previously, looks like the Ara Abare enemy, wielding a giant blade, a monster filled with anger. Hinako states that her father acted the same in real life. Her mother accompanies him, a smaller monster that holds a knife, a projection of humiliation and abuse, a submissive victim. It is interesting that you can get an achievement depending on who you kill first. Killing her father first grants you the achievement and skips you having to kill her mother. If you kill her mother first, you're essentially killing the bystander and the fight continues. They both have charge attacks, with her mother throwing knives at Hinako and swiping fast, and her father slow and predictable. Moving on to the final bosses of the game, it all depends on the ending you are going for. Shiromuku is the boss for the first ending, a large entity wearing a wedding kimono, seen throughout the game. It is essentially Hinako, or at least what she will become when married. It has no face, symbolizing Hinako losing her identity. The main attacks this boss has is its fox arms, spinning or swiping in a whirl of blood and red flowers, littering the field with corruption. An intense fight, leading to Hinako's demise. The Tsukumogami, a monk with many arms and faces, is found in the second ending and the true ending. A body made of tree branches and junk, linking to the divine tree. The centerpiece is different in both, with the second ending having Shu's face in the middle as a sign that he has been taken over, and the doll being there in the true ending. This boss fight is fantastic, with the boss using many different weapons, including a bow and arrow, a spear, a sword, and even stomping on Hinako with his boot. The world changes too, starting as a barren wasteland filled with blood, becoming yellow at the sign of the bell, and even more red in the finale. By far the best animation throughout the entire game has to be the Fox Mask boss fight. There's two different versions of this, and I'll start with the Shishibi from the third ending. Hinako fights this in human form, a fox with 7 tails. The fox continuously transforms from fox to human form, signifying the corruption he has faced due to the possession from the Inari-sama. Throughout the fight, Fox Mask is fighting to contain the possession, with fits of rage triggering the advancement of the boss fight. It reminds me of the Astel boss fight in Elden Ring, mainly due to the dreamlike world and scale of the boss fight. The fox's fur changes colour from red to gold as the fight progresses, a nice detail. Hinako mentions that his fur coat would be beautiful if it weren't for its putrid festers. The second version is the Kyuubi, which Hinako fights in wolf form. He is much more aggressive, a fox with 9 tails. This is the true form of the fox god, a dark and bluish version. This fight has you do 6 phases, 3 with the Kyuubi and 3 with the Tsukumogami, switching the playing field back and forth. During the fight, Hinako is debating with her 2 selves. While fighting Kyuubi, she mentions that he tried so hard to be good for Hinako, backing him up. On the opposing side, fighting Tsukumogami, she worries that he will be like her father and that she doesn't want to give in to his feelings. Truly an amazing boss fight to end it on. The big flaw I had with this game is actually its length, and I'm not usually one to say this. I had planned to play through it once and make a video, but I literally couldn't, as the first ending you get basically tells you nothing. Yes, I could go watch the endings, but since I wanted to find out more myself, I played through the game 4 times to see each ending, apart from the UFO one. It was definitely worth it for the full story, but not without me banging my head against the wall, going through the same sections again and again. And to be fair, I had myself questioning, why is the game made this way? Why is there no coherent conclusion in the first ending? I can't imagine loads of people being willing to play through the game that much, especially if they don't have a lot of free time. It's designed like Nier Automata, one of my favourite games of all time. However, I feel that Nier Automata pulled it off more. Playing different characters made it feel different and less of a repetitive thing to do. I appreciate this as a gameplay mechanic as it provides longevity to the game, but it doesn't quite hit the mark for me in Silent Hill F. The puzzles were really fun in this game, and there's one great mechanic that they used to make them more interesting. A lot of the puzzles towards the end of the game do not change based on what puzzle difficulty you're playing in, rather it depends on the ending you are going for. This makes the puzzle solutions relatable to the events happening around you, immersing you more in the story. For example, there's a puzzle where you have to rotate portraits of Hinako's closest friends and family. In the first ending, you must flip Hinako's portrait down, as she is erased out in the photo of all of them, symbolizing that she is losing herself. However, in the true ending, Hinako's portrait is the only one facing up, and everyone else's faces erased in the photo, signifying that it's her choice and hers alone. The field puzzle is also a memorable one. Scarecrows litter the field, and you must solve riddles to uncover the right ones, removing nails from their flesh. The riddles require some thinking, but overall make sense on different difficulties. I especially like the 5th one in the Lost in the Fog difficulty, as it makes you think outside of the box. Instead of just picking a scarecrow seen on the field, you need to find a dead scarecrow and must follow where it is pointing, leading to a string of dead scarecrows, before finding one lone scarecrow with the nail in it. It's more creative than the rest of them. I enjoyed figuring out the locker combinations in the school, as it requires you to link letters to numbers with code found in documents. While you only need one combination to succeed, there's an extra 3 lockers for extra loot as a bonus if you want to get everything. This includes a bag for upgrading your inventory space, another mechanic of the game. Hinako has limited inventory space, and I often found myself full of healing items on story mode, meaning I usually had to delete those in order to pick up offerings. Offerings found throughout the game are used at Honkora shrines, giving you a currency called Faith. This can be used to draw more Omamori, or to upgrade key skills like health, stamina, and sanity, and more Omamori slots, meaning you can equip more of them. A simple yet effective upgrading system. One area that got repetitive for me was the section with all the different coloured doors, activating switches to find a path through. I really enjoyed it on the first playthrough, but it made the section unnecessarily long on subsequent playthroughs. However, in the later part of the game in the main hall, you are able to skip practically all of it on New Game Plus by using an ability that reveals secret paths. This is because Hinako has already obtained the fox mask on the first playthrough. Environmental design is another part where the game excels. Ebisugoka is based on a real place called Kaneyama. Small pathways and alleyways, walkways by the river with metal fences, the resemblance is quite striking. A foggy town in Japan that slowly becomes corrupted, blooming with crimson flowers. The environment progresses as Hinako moves forward, with enemies changing and getting harder. It's sort of split in two, a labyrinth town with dead ends and secrets, and a larger, more open-feeling section by the lake with misty forest paths and shacks. It perfectly captures the time setting and theme, billboards with missing people, magazines about perfect housewives, and old telephones in homes. If you head up to the Senensugi shrine on New Game Plus, you will see a figure dancing within the shrine. It looks like Sakuko's monster form. A cool little Easter egg. I've mentioned the field section a lot, but it really is unmatched for its foggy atmosphere. When getting a riddle right, the wind blows leaves to lead you onwards, a creative way of pointing you in the right direction. The school was one of the most immersive places for me, walking through desolate hallways and classrooms, slowly falling into ruin. The enemies appear suddenly, around corners and behind you. You never feel safe walking around the building. The lighting flickers, the crimson spreads. This hallway in particular left me in awe, with bodies strung up on the ceiling. On the other hand, the shrine and halls with fox mask are plastered with deep Japanese lore. A path of omamori strung up, Japanese good luck charms. Fox statues with glowing eyes pointing you in the right direction. Wandering through torii gates, down long hallways with many statues, it's truly a gorgeous place. An interesting thing to discover on New Game Plus is in the shrine path towards the start. A giant tree filled with eyeballs, with what I believe is shimenawa hung around it. It is likely that they are being used to purify the tree, as these ropes are used to ward off spirits. Discovering the garden in the dark shrine in New Game Plus was like finding an oasis in the desert. A moment of tranquility in a dark world. A beautiful lake with lanterns hanging off trees, perfectly lighting up the place, and makeshift stone paths over the water. The environment is practically perfect in this game. I played the game with the Japanese voice acting, as I thought it would make for the most authentic experience. I also feel like that impacted on the raw emotion the characters were able to capture, and I think that's due to the animation of the faces being made for the Japanese language. It's an outstanding cast, especially Hinako. Hinako interacts with the environment too, making comments of things happening. Small comments like saying, "Is it dead?" after killing an enemy, and talking about her weapons breaking add some extra character to her. Other than the story, the other thing that really heavily reminded me that this is a Silent Hill game was in the music. It's a great soundtrack, incorporating some Japanese flair into emotional tracks. The first time I really felt this was when Hinako wakes up after being in the shrine world for the first time.
Hinako, しっかりしろ。返事をしろ。よかった。お前は 簡単に死ぬようなやつじゃないよな。
シュウはまだ生きてる。
サクコは無事だよな。
Here's some other tracks that weren't played throughout the video that I like. Silent Hill F also uses its soundtrack to induce fear, with many tracks of eerie sounds and heavy drumming being a major part of the game. Sound design is also really immersive, especially for enemies. Take, for example, the Kamogara. Their chains echo in the shrine, and you can hear them way before you see them. The creaks of the Kashimashi's disjointed legs, wandering around the tight alleyways. Or right at the start, going through the first house, you can sense an enemy is in there with you. It builds up, and when you're finally introduced to it, haunting music with out-of-pitch piano keys intensifies the fact that you are completely defenseless and have to run to survive.
はしない、せかさない。いるのは私たちだけ。私たちだけで行く末を決められる。こんな静かな恵比寿ヶ丘は初めてかも。
Silent Hill F pushes a powerful narrative of deciding your fate for your own, despite the people around you doing whatever it takes to stop you. Hinako, a pawn to be used and abused, taken through her own tormented world, but with the ability of taking her own path, going against all odds to be herself. A truly fantastic piece of writing by Ryukishi07. Thank you for watching.